Good, y'all.
Sucio Sports Live, episode
Hey,
67, presented by Gel
safe to say
Blasters and
I'm the
Inplay
biggest,
Dogs.
the largest. Been stepping up since my mama stayed in them apartments. Regardless, my daddy told me keep the heat even when I'm in foreigns. I'm heartless, cause these
Gel
niggas is hating on
Blasters,
me just because I'm the biggest, the
Inplay
largest,
Dogs.
the biggest,
Yeah,
the
bro.
largest. 30K on my riches for hard times. These niggas just mad cause they bitching my archives. Jordan came back to the 4-5. If you play then you lay right there by your own kind. Pull up a four in the loco, tell them run this bitch back like so-so. Got this rap shit here in the chokehold. Did a show out in Austin, shout out to Bobo. Moved out the trenches, now look how
I chose to start off the show with some Big X to plug. Shout out to Big X. Real's name is Xavier Landry. Got busted for possession of marijuana up in Arlington for possession of less than 2 ounces. Now they said a relative was caught in the car with him who had like an outstanding warrant or got possession of firearm or something like that. He had some other charges besides the marijuana possession that they both caught. It's one of them things, man, where if you tune into anything here on the CDB network, you will know that like some of the guys are enthusiasts and big proponents of cannabis. And I know Sloan, aka Weed Lee, has several sponsors. And I hope you don't mind me speaking to it, but like, you know, he uses to help deal with the variety of health issues and whatnot. And if you haven't known him over the years, like it's helped a lot of his health issues and whatnot that he's had. And you know, a couple other guys like it's helped health issues that a lot of them have had. And it's just one of them things, man, where I know people of all walks of life who do a dabble or what have you, but they do so simply because it helps. Medicinally, whatever, if you use recreationally, whatever it is. But my thing is like I just hate that it's you get a charge or something like that and you get your mug shot out there, you know, for possession of less than 2 ounces. And you know, there's literally other people that you could be stopping for speeding every day or different stuff like that. What have you. My thing is did they do something to cause you to stop it? Because talking with some people who know the law and law enforcement, they say, you know, there's a list of primary issues to stop you, and then there's secondary issues that they find out after they stop you. I don't know how any of those charges would have been primary issues unless the relative had something registered in his name. They were looking for him and they ran the plates. That to me would make sense. Anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds of that because it's not what we're here for. I just thought I'd start off the show shouting out to the homie because I like his music and I got, you know, other friends, man. Like one of my coolest white friends, country hometown Texas boy, like he is a huge fan. And he sent me a video clip or something like that. He was like, man, I love his music. And I was like, yeah, I love his music too. And we haven't listened to rap music like that in probably 15, 20 years, like together, since we used to work together a long time ago. But he was like, man, I like his music. You know, he was like, it's so real. I was like, yeah, bro, you know, he makes good music. So just shout out to him. Hopefully he get all that cleared up, man. And he ain't got to worry about, you know, dealing with that, catching that charge or whatnot. Anyway, again, this is episode 67 of Sucio Sports presented by Gel Blasters and Inplay Dogs. Gel Blasters, Inplay Dogs. Y'all messed up when I found out that that's where I had to do that switch off, especially when I be solo because I can't have one in the background. Y'all messed up. Y'all messed up. Anyway, but yeah, man. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna be reaching out to another sponsor because I've been using their products on this illustrious beard of mine. It's not shaped up right now and everything. You know, just haven't had the time yet because I've been working and stuff. But man, game changer. Definitely a game changer. Whole skincare routine, beard routine, everything, game changer. Serious game changer. So I'm gonna be emailing them probably in the next few days, reaching out to them. Uh, Shout out to y'all. Y'all should know who y'all are because I just bought y'all stuff. If y'all listening, but if you are listening, be looking for that email, brother, because it's coming. Anyway, um, man, it's been a crazy week since last week. Like just a lot of work, different stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just a bunch of stuff going on. And life be life in it. You know what I'm saying? Stuff happen. But I mean, hey, we here. We here. We are here. I'm just stalling for time because I forgot where I put my notes at for this episode, but we got it. Anyway, week was crazy. Uh Work be working, life be lifing, stuff be stuffing. So it is what it is. Um Really looking forward to everybody was talking and discussing, plans for Mania in Vegas. So we definitely gonna be looking forward to that. Um got to make that happen, and got to get some stuff finished up, written, and everything else, and tightened up and edited and turned in and all of that. Just been dragging my feet because stuff be stuffing, life be life, and work be working. Anyway, I really want to start with this Luca and the Mavs thing, and the Lakers and the NBA, simply because like I just watched the game last night. Um, the Mavs were in LA. This was the first time that they were playing since the trade went down. And the craziest thing about it is there was a point in time in which I can't remember when it was in the game, but Lakers fans literally broke out in a "Thank you, Nico" chant, and I was flabbergasted. I thought it was great. I loved it. It was hilarious, and I just hold up. Let me see, make sure I got y'all. Let's see if we can get this to go. It was while Luca shot free throws, is what it was. So I thought that was hilarious, and it shows how appreciative the Lakers are because of this trade. But also, when you look at the reaction of the Mavs fans, man, like they're highly upset, and I don't blame them at all. I've spoken to a couple of Mavs fans, and they're pissed. So to see him perform the way he performed last night and do what he did and look that good against the team who just traded him, you know what I'm saying? Like that was just it was just icing on the cake because you always want to have a great game when you're going against a team that got rid of you, traded you, didn't resign you, or what have you. But to do what Luca did, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks with only 2 turnovers, 2 personal fouls the whole game. Now his shooting was 6 of 17 overall and 1 from 7 from 3. Like 2 point shots, great. 6 out of 8 from the free throw line, 75%. Not good. What you want from a primary ball handler is somebody who could potentially be at the free throw line a lot. But I mean, 75% is better than, it's right around the league average or so, or a little bit above, actually. But 1 of 7 from 3. I know he's going to keep shooting it and shoot or shoot, and you're supposed to have a short memory and everything. But at some point, like, I mean, but everything else was working. And the craziest part about that whole stat line is not that he had another triple double. It was the fact that he put up was 3 steals and 2 blocks. 1 steal, okay, you know what? Cool. But 3 steals from Luca, the guy that they said can't play defense or doesn't know this or doesn't know that, I'll take it. I'll take it every single night. And honestly, if Luka could give me 2 to 3 steals a night, but only gave me 6 or 7 assists instead of 9 or 10, I take that. Because what people don't understand is, oh, he averages 12 assists. Okay, but if he averaged 8 assists, but he gave me 2 steals a night, maybe three, like 2.5, that's extra possessions for your team. He doesn't have to assist on every single basket. And those extra couple of assists, yeah, they lead to direct points, but I mean, you can't score those points without extra possessions. And that extra possession takes away a possession from the other team. So henceforth, it's almost like it's doubling what you have, especially if you can score off of it. That's just my philosophy. That's just the way I think about it. Turnovers mean something, and I look at things. I tend to look at things from both aspects, but defensively, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, hockey, lacrosse, it don't matter. Whatever it is I'm watching, I like to look at it from both aspects, and especially defensively, when you can take the ball away from the other team or prevent the other team from scoring, and then henceforth turn that defense into offense for your team. So that to me was something that I really looked at, and I was just like, you know what? You can tell that he's feeling it, and he's got the communication down. And I remember one of the things LeBron said was Luka now has the defensive assignments and the matchups and the switches and everything down pat, and he's feeling more comfortable in the offense. And you're starting to see that because, like I was talking about it with my son and my daughter, and we were both watching that game. And then there was another game, Lakers game we were watching, and they were doing it with defense. And I want to say that that was another game where they had a bad shooting night as a team, but because they were playing such good defense and rebounding the ball and whatnot, they kept and maintained a lead down the stretch, pulled away from the team and secured the win, much similar to what they did last night against the Mavs, because the Mavs were not, they weren't quitting. They were definitely fighting back, and they were throwing some big boy punches at the Lakers, and they weren't going away. And they kept at it, but the Lakers kept them at arm's length. Sometimes that arm was a little T-Rex arm, sometimes it was a full stiff arm, but they kept them at arm's length enough to pull out the win. Looking at the scores in games tonight, we had a blowout, 20-point win by the Pistons over the Celtics. Now, if I would have told you a year ago that the Pistons beat the Celtics by 20, or if I would have even said a year ago that, hey, the Pistons are going to beat the Celtics next year by 20 at some point, any of the last 2 or 3 years, you would have laughed at me. You would have thought I was crazy. You would have thought something was wrong. The Pistons are legit, and they're one of those teams where it's almost like the adage where you throw stuff against the wall enough, and eventually something good is going to happen. Well, the Pistons are that team where they've sucked so long to the point where they've been able to draft guys and sign the right free agents, and now they're sitting as of this moment the 6th seed in the East. They're 4.5 games above the Magic for the 7th seed, falling into the play-in game. So if they can maintain just that slight lead right there, they're safe and secure. They'll be in the playoffs and won't have to worry about a play-in game. So going from where they were last year, they were the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Matter of fact, they were the worst team in the league by a large margin. By a game over the Wizards. But third place, they were 7 games worse than the next worst team. So it was them and the Wizards. They had 14 wins last year. Wizards had 15. But as of right now, the Pistons are sitting at 33 wins. So they went from 14 wins last year to 33 this year. I'm sorry, but that team deserves a lot of props. I don't know how they pulled it off. They just started putting it together. The things started working for them, And I love when I see a team when they come together like that. You know, I love when a team actually like they just I don't know, man. It's just something beautiful about when you build something from within. Much like Golden State did some years ago. And I'm not comparing the Pistons to Golden State. Please don't do that. I'm just saying when you have homegrown talent and you add pieces around them and you build something organically. The Rockets are another example. Another young team that they drafted well and they signed key free agents here and there to go with that young core. And now you have a team in the Rockets where, you know, they were missing the playoffs the last few years. And then now I believe they're the fifth seed. Yeah, the fifth seed in the West. They're in a virtual tie with the Lakers for the fourth seed. So as of right now. So I mean, just looking at these teams where you're still able to build through the draft and surround yourself with key free agents and still build a contending team, a winning team in the NBA. That can be done. It can be done much quicker in the NFL because of the way the salary cap works. Contracts aren't guaranteed, so pieces are easily moved about. Contracts are easily guys are cut, you know, given their guaranteed money signing bonus or what have you, and sent along their way. Team takes a cap hit, boom, year or so later, we're out of that cap hell. We can spend money now. So it's just a matter of committing to something, finding a formula that works for your franchise, keeping with a formula, and you know, a philosophy of players that you want to get that fit your type of system that you like to run, and going from there. Um, Other teams that have turned themselves around in recent years like that are the Oklahoma City Thunder for sure. Um, who else caught my eye? I know the Thunder for sure because they've been good the last few years, and they're another really young team. There's some other teams out there like the Nuggets who a lot of their main players are guys that they drafted and developed and whatnot, like Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Jamal Murray. So you have teams out there that are like that. And then you have teams that are completely like built, you know, piece by piece, you know, with a lot of free agents, trades, and this and that. Some of them do well, some of them don't. So it just depends. Um, you got a team like the Phoenix Suns who have moved about pieces and they currently sit 2.5 games out of the 10th seed. So stuff like that makes me wonder why didn't they move KD and or Bradley Beal or maybe even Devin Booker himself at the trading deadline, seeing as where they were and where they were trying to get to, and they have such an uphill battle. But you know they wanted to keep it together and see what they can do with the rest of the season. So you know more power to you. But rumors are stating that KD could be traded this very off season. So be on the lookout for that because KD, I believe, is 36 right now. So it's a matter of time before they ship him off because it'll be like, you know, we can probably get some decent return for him, even though in the NBA, of course, you have to match the contract within, I believe it's 10 or 15%. And especially if you're a certain place over the tax or you're a repeat offender of the tax, you actually have to send out more money than you take back. So that's another thing that you have to consider. So I advise everybody when you're talking about trades and stuff like that in the NBA, potential trades, get on one of these good trade machines, not just the one on ESPN because it does not allow for draft picks, cash consideration, so on and so forth. But find one of these good trade machines on one of these quality websites where it allows you to use cash considerations, draft picks, protected picks, and different things like that to work out a trade. That way you can intelligently say, I would like to see this happen, and you can make it happen. Because I saw somebody, shout out to the homie Bryson, Red Nation blogger on Twitter. He proposed a trade for the Rockets to get, I think it's KD from the Suns. And Dylan Brooks was a part of that package. And somebody commented under it, no, Brooks is part of the culture here. We can't trade Brooks. Throw in Tate. But if you look at their salaries are vastly different. I want to say Brooks makes about 12 million or so more than Jayshawn Tate does. You can't just take 12, 13 million off the books of a trade and sub it out because you want to get rid of another player instead of one other player. Like, you have to give up something in order to get something in return. This isn't Madden. This isn't 2K. This isn't MLB The Show. This isn't whatever. You can't just turn off the salary cap and, trade with the computer and make them accept stupid trades. It does not work like that. Like, there are actually parameters in the collective bargaining agreement in place that you have to follow. So, excuse me for being get off my lawn guy, because I want to have intelligent sports talk instead of just throwing shit at the wall, seeing if it's going to stick, sounding like an idiot. Like, people can do that all day long, and that's y'all's choice. But don't get mad at me when I inject some logic into the situation if I'm asked. I will never voluntarily just jump in the middle of something, and I try not to do that, especially when it comes to sports, because I know how I am. And I know that once somebody tries to challenge me on something, or you're just a hater, you're just this. No, I'm speaking facts to you, and I'm going to teach you something that you should already know. And then since you don't, let me show you. And then when I get in that mode, like, now I'm the asshole because I brought levity and logic to the situation. I'm just trying to help you, dumbass. You might want to listen. I know some stuff. But anyway, the only other thing in the NBA that caught my attention, like, the Cavs and the Thunder are both the number one seeds right now at this very moment. Both teams have a decent lead. Like, OKC has an 8.5 game lead over the Grizzlies in the Western Conference between the 1 and the 2 seed, and the Cavs have a 6.5 game lead over the Celtics between the 1 and the 2 seed in the East. With both teams running away right now, basically with the 1 seed in their respective conferences, I want to see, can they keep this up throughout the playoffs? Can they maintain this? And will they actually meet up in the finals? I got to go back and look at it, but teams that have the 1 seed at the All-Star break, there is this weird statistic where they don't always end up meeting in the finals. It's not as guaranteed and straightforward as most would think. And so that's why I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And I'm going to have to go back and actually research that statistic and see how many teams were the 1 seed at the All-Star break, and did those 2 teams, end up meeting in the finals, and how many times, percentages, so on and so forth. But I love what both teams are doing because they're both relatively young, especially the Thunder. And both teams can light you up on the offensive end, but they also play really good defense. And the Thunder are only going to get help whenever Chet Holmgren is fully healthy and back up and running. That way they can get, another one of their dynamic X Factor type of players back in there on the offensive and defensive end, because he's a 7'1" matchup nightmare on the offensive end, because he can kind of handle the ball, shoot from the outside. And he's also a rim protector, especially as a help defender on the defensive end. Because if you have a guy like that on a wing defender, and, you got somebody driving on the strong side of the hoop, you got to worry about that weak side help defense. And if that weak side help defense is a guy that's 7'1" with a crazy wingspan coming over, that's definitely going to make you change your shot, and definitely make you think twice when you're going in there. Now, he's not the biggest guy because he's really skinny. However, if you have somebody like that closing out on you on a 3 on a wing, it's going to change the trajectory of your shot. If you're driving to the hoop, it's going to change the way you drive to the hoop and try to finish. So that kind of stuff does affect the team's offense, and it can help your defense turn into offense for your team, especially, like I said, going back again, talking about turnovers. To me, a bad shot forced by a closeout or good defense and your team rebounds, that's just as good as a turnover, because you prevented the team from scoring. You discouraged them from trying to take this shot. You took the ball away. Well, not really taking the ball away, but you got a defensive rebound, and now you're headed up the court, going back. And especially when you can get those kind of moments and critical moments when you're trying to come back, or you're trying to extend the lead, or you're trying to keep a lead, those type of plays definitely come in place down the stretch, and especially in the playoffs when things get a little bit tighter and half-court offense and defensive execution is at a premium. So don't underestimate them getting him back, and they already have an 8.5 game lead over the Grizzlies for the 1 seed in the West. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the rest of the NBA season plays out. It's going to be good to watch. Uh, thank God we're back to basketball after that god awful All Star game debacle and whatnot. So I'm just happy to see regular basketball back on TV again. Um, Speaking of basketball, let me pull this up first because when I get into NCAA basketball, I want to make sure I'm talking about the here we go. So when we talk about college basketball and you're looking at teams that could make the NCAA tournament and whatnot, right? Like you sometimes you wonder, um, who has the biggest legit, most legit shot of uh making it in the tournament. There are, I believe it's 9 teams. I'm looking at the list right now where they have a top 20 offensive and defensive rating in the Ken Palm college basketball ratings and rankings. Those teams typically win the NCAA tournament. You can talk about seniors, you can talk about your coaches, you can talk about uh, all of whatever it is you want to talk about. But that statistic is pretty much nailed to the cross. That's gospel. Um, you have a team in the top 20, top 30, or whatever offense and defense ratings in the Ken Palm rankings. Those are the teams you need to look at as far as winning the NCAA tournament. Um, for example, just looking at it, you have Duke, Auburn, UH, Florida. Tennessee is right there because they're 25th in offense, but they're ranked first in defense, in the offensive and defensive ratings. Um, Texas Tech has a 27 defensive rating, 10 on offense. Michigan State, 26 offense, 7 defense. Iowa State, 22nd offense, 11 defense. And Arizona, 18 offense, 20 defense. And you also have Maryland, who's 20th offense, 15 defense. Clemson. Clemson is another one. They're right at 30th and 29th defensively and 16th in offense. Those are the teams that are pretty much guaranteed to win the NCAA tournament. Um, I don't make this stuff up. I listen and follow and was taught by people who do this for a living, whether it's gambling and or sports media and whatnot. Um, a lot of them have been doing it a hell of a lot longer than I have. Uh, some of them are radio Hall of Famers, whatever and whatnot. They've been getting paid at doing this and analyzing this kind of stuff quite a long time. And so to talk to different people like that and hear their thoughts on things and watch how they view things and the reason why they do what they do and come up with the takes that they come up with, uh, and being able to talk to them and whatnot, that tells me like this must mean something. And when you go back and you research it yourself, you see like, yeah, it's definitely something there to the statistic. This is just something that we just made up. Like, go back and look at it and go back in history and look at those ratings from Ken Palm, and you will see those teams that won the national title, top ranked offense, top ranked defense, at least in the top 20 to 30 roughly. Excuse me. But I don't just say that for any reason. There's a reason behind that. And it's being smart with your money when you do place those bets. So when you're filling out those brackets and whatnot, and you're trying to pick a national champion, and we were talking last night on Gresh Unleashed. Shout out to Gresh, highlight Graham last night on the pod. Please go and follow. That's at Gresh Unleashed. Hold up. Matter of fact, let me just pull it up for y'all so that way y'all can see. But yeah, we were talking about like how when you book a show, sometimes you'll book a show backwards, right? And it's simply because you want to book it and make it, you want to start like saying, okay, this is who I want um to win at WrestleMania, right? Okay, cool. How do I get there from here, from where I'm at right now? Yeah, at Gresh Unleash uh podcast, is it? No, I'm sorry, just at Gresh Unleashed. That's the pod page, but yeah, you'll see all kind of hoopla and shenanigans. You can follow Gresh. He's at It's Gresh. Let's highlight. I know he's in here somewhere. Him and Graham is in here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, man, go follow the guys. Shout out to them. But yeah, we were talking about booking a show backwards. And basically a tip I wanted to give y'all, not just besides this tip about Ken Palm and the rankings and everything, but when you're filling out your bracket, figure out who you want to pick as champion first. And I know that may sound crazy, but if you go ahead and figure out who you think going to make the final four, it's a lot easier for you to work through your bracket. Because if you don't really think and have an idea of who are the teams that I think can win these four regions, when you start off, it's going to be harder for you to work through all those first and second round games and whatnot. Because you're going to be thinking upset, upset, upset. Okay, yeah, but who do I think is really going to make it this far? There's been times where I don't think about it that way and I try to just go game by game and just pick the whole thing. And end up saying, well, wait a minute. I really thought so-and-so was going to make the final four. How do I have them losing in the second round? Or I really think that this team is a better team and I think that they can get out of this region better than this team could. Or this team had a tough path, blah, 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 whatever it is. Figure out your final four first. Go from there. That way, it's a lot easier for you to go through that bracket because then you can just walk that team through that bracket and then pick every other game around that. It'll be a lot simpler for you. It may go a lot better. That's just one of the things that I've kind of tried to train myself to do over the years. Sometimes I don't even follow my own advice doing that. But just saying, it's easier for you to know if you got a point in which you say, okay, I think these are the four teams that are going to win these four regions, and you just pick them through. You can always, go from there, and it's easier for you to just slot everything else in place. I was looking at it, and the SEC continues to dominate the top 25, and it's estimated that they may get as many as 10 to 13 teams in the tournament. That's an insane amount of teams in the field of 68. And they say 68, but I still call it 64 because I'm sorry. Like, no, I don't believe in that 68 crap because those teams are meant to lose. But you have damn near 20%, 15 to 20% of the field is going to be filled with SEC teams. And I keep talking about this, and it's not just because I guess I live in SEC country now, living in Houston, because it used to be Big 12, now it's SEC. Anyway, but seeing the SEC dominate basketball the way they've traditionally dominated football is insane. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, it's weird because I'm not one of those people that's going to scream SEC, SEC or nothing like that. But to see a traditional football conference, they've had some basketball success, but it's mainly been Kentucky or old school Arkansas or something like that. Every so often you may get a Georgia or like a Florida who had their run in the 2000s or whatever with the Corey Brewers and the Joakim Noahs and whatnot, Billy Donovan there. Or you may get a team here or there like a Tennessee or, Auburn and Alabama have been great this year. And they're two traditional football schools. But every so often you'll get a team from the SEC that does really good. However, damn near the entire conference is good now. And it's crazy because I know that they've added Oklahoma and they've added Texas and whatnot. And, previously they've added other teams. But to see that conference dominate the way like the ACC or the old school Big East used to dominate, or the Big Ten used to dominate, it's even sometimes the Big 12, just to see the way that conference has now reshifted itself and reshaped itself, and now like kind of taken over the basketball rankings. It's just crazy. They say it means more in the SEC, and apparently it does because they've still dominating the top 25 rankings, and now they're expected to get damn near 15-20% of the field in the NCAA tournament. So if you're in one of those other conferences, like, look the hell out, because those teams have beaten up on each other, and they're battle tested. Now, will that wear them down when it comes tournament time, like it has in college football? Because especially this past year, people were excited to see a lot of the SEC teams get blown out, lose, and not look good during bowl season, especially in the playoff. It happens. There's going to be some down years, and they took a hit. And we saw a lot of other teams out of other conferences look a lot better. And people were saying, oh, they're overrated or this or that. Yeah, that's true. But at the end of the season, when you play all those games out, the rankings aren't going to save you at the end of the season, because your team is your team and your record is your record at the end of the season. Now, the way they perform against other conferences and whatnot, that does speak to the overall validity of, is this conference the best conference still? And apparently it's not. And I would tend to look at the Big 10, or 20 or whatever the hell they got now, because Ohio State did win a national title. That's number one. Number two, Oregon was a top 5, top 3 team all year, and they're in the Big 10. And you had a couple other teams in the Big 10 that looked really good. Michigan, as a matter of fact, I believe it was Michigan beat Alabama in the bowl game or something like that. So you got other teams in the Big 10 that look really, really good. So I would say in college football, I look at the Big 10 as the top conference right now. In women's college basketball, this weekend, I wanted to touch on that. We're going to get USC versus UCLA. Saturday night, that's at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock if you're in the mountains. Just want to make sure we cover everybody. But really interested in seeing that matchup, because not only are we going to get, I believe it's what is it? Hold up. Here we go. Not only are we getting number 2 versus number 4, but we're also getting 2 of the top players in the country, USC's Juju Watkins and UCLA's Kiki Rice. And shout out to Dre from the Dre Lax podcast on the CDB network, because I give Dre his props all the time about showing me who Kiki Rice actually was. I just knew there was a guard at UCLA that was pretty decent. I couldn't even remember her name or nothing, but it was because I think we were watching the USC UCLA game or something like that. I was like, oh, that's the girl you were talking about. Whole time I'm thinking Kiki Iriafen, that was at Stanford last year, who's now at USC playing with Juju Watkins. I'm thinking he was talking about that Kiki. He was like, oh yeah, you got to check out Kiki at UCLA. I said, bro, Kiki plays for Stanford. No, bro, she plays for UCLA. And it was a thing, and he was like, she's a guard. She's like 5'7", 5'6", or whatever. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm thinking about the post player who's like 6'1", 6'2", that plays for Stanford last year, USC this year. But it was last year when we were talking about this, we had this conversation. So shout out to Dre, because that was hilarious. I really feel like games like this are important, that these girls are actually getting a primetime slot. Because I love seeing them get their shine and get their moment in the sun, to highlight their game. And the thing that Keyz and I have talked about a lot on this podcast is that the last few years, the women's basketball has been much more exciting than the men's. It's number one. Number two, the WNBA has taken advantage of the wave of popularity of women's college basketball and roll that over into their season, because a week or two after the NCAA women's tournament concludes, you have the WNBA draft. About a few weeks, a month or so after the WNBA draft, that's when training camp, preseason, their season starts to ramp up and kick off. So you don't have much time between the end of the NCAA women's tournament and the start of the WNBA season before that starts. With the popularity of women's college hoops the last few years, rolling over into the WNBA. They're continuing that cycle every year because they're cycling out, more stars, and they're finding a way to get these ladies highlighted and get these ladies, front and center, and to have these two teams, two top five teams, and two primetime players go at it on a Saturday primetime game. Props to you, hats off, and I hope they do big numbers, and I hope it's a great game. I'll definitely be tuned in. If I'm not watching it, just solely watching that, I'll probably be splitting time with probably Elimination Chamber. I think it's going to be on around the same time. So yeah, one will be on TV, one will be on TV Junior, or one will be on the TV. It'll be on a laptop, but I'm definitely going to be tuned in to watch that game and give y'all some thoughts about it next week on next week's show. NFL has some stuff going on because we got combine chatter basically. Every time at the combine, there's always going to be around combine time. There's always going to be rumors of potential free agents, trades, different things like that can be going down because you basically have every team. Every team is there because they're all at the combine scouting players, of course, but you also have player representation there as well because all of those agents of all of those existing players do have rookies. And even if they don't have rookies, a lot of those agents are there simply because everybody else is there. And it's time to talk and, maybe get some things done, hammer out some details of some things, contract extensions, free agency contracts, possibly hampering. Anyway, just there's a lot of hubbub. A couple of the main things that I saw is the Jets have informed Aaron Rodgers they're going to move on from him, and he's actually reached out to the Giants. Matthew Stafford has basically been told by the Rams that he can seek a trade. There's several players around the league. Cooper Kupp has been told the same thing. He won't be back. He can seek a trade. So there's a lot of veterans around the league right now, especially veterans with either contracts due to be re-signed or, cap hits are getting too big or cap numbers getting too big. And so teams like, hey, it's time for us to move on. Things like that. They're getting permission to seek trades. So there's just a lot of moving pieces going on right now. Not even to mention the guys who are actually invited to the combine. Every year there's going to be guys who aren't going to either run, lift, or quarterbacks that won't throw. Some guys won't work out at all, what have you. They'll only do the medical and the interviews and whatnot and save it for their pro day. That's typical simply because those guys, a lot of the ones who choose not to work out and they save it for their pro day, their top picks, they're pretty much guaranteed to go pretty high or go first round or what have you. So they don't want to risk any looking bad, basically. They don't want to go out there and work out and play or perform with guys that they're not familiar with, like a quarterback, like a Shadur Sanders who says he's not going to throw because he's going to be throwing the guys he doesn't have any chemistry with. He feels as though he's going to be a top pick, so he doesn't feel the need to throw, just go for interviews and medicals, which is still important because there's a lot of questions about Shadur off the field, especially concerning him and his dad, their relationship, and Deion being involved, so on and so forth. So whether guys work out or not, that's neither here nor there. There's going to be guys like that every year, and it's happened all the time at the combine, especially over the last, I would say, probably 5 to 10, 15, 20 years or so. There's always going to be some guys who won't do something at the combine. Some of them either don't work out at all, like I said, or some of them pick and choose what they will do. But it is what it is. Sometimes you just got to let the tape speak for itself. And there's some guys who, like, for example, last year, I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. did not work out at the combine, nor did he perform at Ohio State's pro day. He just said, no, I'm not doing it. Not doing any of it. You have the tape on me. I am who I am. You're going to draft me where you're going to draft me. And lo and behold, he stayed exactly where he was. And I believe he was drafted 4th overall by the Cardinals. What was it, 4th? Yeah, 4th overall. So, I mean, that was a guy who was clearly the consensus number 1 receiver in the draft. One of the top players overall in the draft. He knew he was going to go top 5, top 10 bare minimum, but top 5 most likely. Why am I going to show you anything that could potentially take money away from me and think teams, well, maybe we should pass on him and select somebody else because he didn't run as well, or he didn't look as fluid in these drills, or he didn't, he doesn't seem as agile. What's his 10-yard splits? How does he do the cone drill, the shuttle drill, so on and so forth. So instead of him taking those knocks to his draft status, he just chose to not do anything and let the tape speak for itself. I am who I am. So that kind of worked out in his favor in that instance. Drake, I was just getting you come in the chat after I give you your props for telling me about Kiki Rice. You would come in after that. But no, again, shout out to Dre again for hipping me to Kiki Rice. Dre, I was just telling everybody how you were telling me about Kiki Rice, and I kept thinking you were talking about Kiki Iriafen, the forward who played at Stanford last year. And you were like, no, dude, it's a guard. She's at UCLA. I keep telling you this. And I was like, oh, my bad. Her name is Kiki. Well, I said, you just said Kiki, and I thought you were talking about that one. Anyway, it is good. Oh, he was at, oh, that's right. Okay, that I forgot. Dre's a lacrosse coach. He had practice, so that does explain why he just popped in. But yeah, man, like it's just some of those guys are not going to work out, and it's okay. Don't go crazy or anything like that. Like, let the tape speak for itself, or save it for your pro day. Either way, the good thing is with the collective bargaining agreement, even if your team does draft, one of those top 5, top 10, top 3 or whatever pick busts, you're only on the hook for them for 4 years. Their contracts are most likely fully guaranteed, but it's not enough money to say it's a terrible cap hit if you decide to get rid of them. That 5th-year option is a little bit more costly. If you do pick up that 5th-year option and then you decide, nah, I don't want to keep this player around, but you do have a few years to work with that player in order to decide and make a decision whether or not you want to keep them around. And again, those contracts aren't like, cost prohibitive to say if you have to cut this person or trade this person or what have you, you're going to take this, ridiculous cap hit. It's something that's more malleable, more palatable is what I want to say. If you have to move on from that person, that contract. So it'll just be interesting to see how things play out in a lot of the rumors, and things are going to be swirling because I believe next week sometime, or maybe the week after, is when the new league year starts. They'll solidify the salary cap, which will be somewhere between 277 and 282 million roughly. And teams will have until that first day of the new league year to be under that salary cap whenever they finally finalize it and set it. Because that's when free agency will start, like that day or the next day or whatever it is. So, we got about a week or two away from all of that happening. So that's why a lot of moving pieces are starting to come into place as far as hearing about trades or guys getting cut, extensions, so on and so forth. Because with the draft happening at the end of April, free agency starting the beginning of, early March, there's about a month and 2 weeks or so in between free agency starting and the draft. And the combine is going on right now. So, like, the offseason is starting to ramp up basically for the NFL. And there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be hearing over the next couple of months about player movement, contracts, so on and so forth. That's really about all I wanted to cover as far as sports is concerned tonight. There's some other things that, really concerned me, and we touched on it last night on Gresh Unleashed, right? And I'm just it's really bothered me, and I've tried to find a way to say how I feel without coming off too too harsh. But it's only one way to say this, man. And the bullshit that they not acknowledge black history. State to state is what it is. the I root for everybody, the black man in me, especially the black man with black kids, who look up to a lot of these athletes and whatnot. For them to see somebody that looks like them succeeding on any level, doing something positive, whether it's athletics, sports, entertainment, politics, law, whatever. For me to have my kids see people that look like them doing something successful, doing something that they love, um, representation does matter. Fuck you if you feel different. Unfriend me, block me, don't follow me. I don't care. That's just the way I feel personally. Um, and I'm not saying that they need to have a handout or anything like that, but Black history is part of American history, just like every other body's history and whatnot. I don't understand why you want to try to erase that or do away with that or not acknowledge it. Because a lot of the times it does seem suspicious when you don't acknowledge Black History Month. And then you see sometimes the way Black talent is being booked. It makes you call things into question. However, I'm going to tell everybody to level up just a little bit and think a little bit deeper about what we're really seeing taking place here. This isn't a going from Vince to Triple H thing. It's much bigger than that. If you look a little bit deeper, this is at the major corporate TKO Endeavor level. Because TKO and Endeavor, owners of UFC, have traditionally, cowtailed and catered to Donald Trump. They love having him at their events. They love bringing him out. They love parading him around. He has a good relationship with those guys. Ari Emanuel, the Fertitas, and all of them who used to own it. Dana White, who is still one of the owners, still runs it. All those guys at the top of TKO Endeavor. When you look at WWE was bought by this group, don't think that they're not going to do the same thing over in WWE that they've been doing in UFC. They're going to do the exact same thing. Now, the one difference is I do see that they do treat the wrestlers a lot better now. They're well taken care of. It just came out that the downside guarantee, if you're on the main roster of WWE, the minimum you're going to make every year is between $200,000 and $300,000 a year. That's the minimum. You don't get no TV matches, no pay-per-view matches, whatever, no merch sales, no extra perks or bonuses or nothing like that. Just your bare minimum salary is between $200,000 and $300,000. They're taking care of those wrestlers a hell of a lot better than they're taking care of those UFC fighters. And I think mainly because the cycle of MMA fighters, you can constantly cycle them through. One gets hurt, can't perform, has a breakdown, whatever, get another one. And this is why you see like guy can't make weight, gets injured or what have you. Boom, there's somebody else, guy or lady, right there, boom, to step into that fight. So when I see stuff like that and I see the way they do things and I see the way they move and they operate in regards to President Trump and some of his executive orders and whatnot, them not acknowledging Black History Month, I'm actually not surprised. The only thing I'm actually surprised about is that it took people are still not catching on to the fact that it's more of a parent company thing than a WWE corporate level thing. Can we put Triple H at fault for some of this? Yes, we can, because he's in charge of creative or whatever, but he does have a board member position in WWE itself. So I'm not just totally letting him or anybody else in charge over there off the hook, but I do also want to call to attention the parent company there. And one of the main people at that parent company, who's been a face of this whole thing, has been Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So if I would call out anybody and single them out as why is this not getting done, somebody that could definitely make sure it happens, it would be him. And I'm not just saying that to be a dick or to throw the heat off of Triple H, because I still have a little bit of a problem with Triple H with the way he's booked some Black talent and the way I think he should book some Black talents, especially some of the men. Women as well, but mainly the men. But I just feel like that there's more blame to go around here than what people are actually focusing in on. Not saying that don't focus in on who you're keyed in on, I'm just saying there's a lot more blame to be passed around to other people that we need to point a finger at. And I'm not just saying that because Rock came out there and cut that shitty ass, creepy ass promo the other night either. And we talked about that last night on Aggression Unleashed as well. But he's somebody at that major corporate board member level that can say, hey, what's up with this? Why haven't we acknowledged this or what have you? He's somebody with the power and the stroke that can say something to make something happen. And he hasn't. Or we don't know if he has or has not or whatever. But I just know that he has a lot more power and stroke to make something like this come to life and put it out there. And evidently he hasn't done it, or it has fallen on deaf ears, or he got shut down, whatever it is. But there's more people to look at when it comes to why haven't they acknowledged it. People talked about boycotting and not watching or whatever. I wish I could say that I would, but I can't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm addicted. Been like that since I was a kid. Probably gonna stay like that. That's my crack. And you know what? That's okay, because I'm gonna smoke it. Call it what you want. That's my cup, so I'm gonna sip it. However, will I be as supportive? No, because I can still watch your product for the entertainment value in it and still be critical of you at the same time. Like, there is duality out there, people, and I want y'all to realize that, because that duality, that things can be, two things can be true or two things can be a lie all at the same time. We need to start realizing that a lot more in other aspects of life, just as a life lesson. Two things can be true at the same time. You can present as a wholesome, great person, and you can also be a toxic piece of shit as well. It is what it is. You know, and I'll be honest with you, some of the worst, most hateful people that I know and things that I've heard have come from the lips of people who proclaim to be such these great Christian or great, you know, I practice this or I do that and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's come from some of those people who claim to be these great people or have this philosophy on life or whatever the hell you want to call it. Some of the nastiest things that I've heard and said and seen done have come from people like that. So I'm not just, everybody got to share the blame in this. What percentage you assign to who is up to you, in your opinion. But I'm just saying there's a lot more blame to go around in this situation than what some people focus in on. And I want us to be, I hate to use the term woke, but just keep your eyes open and think a little bit deeper and know that there's a little bit more to all of this than what is presenting on the front end of things. Draft predictions. Ooh, I'm not ready for draft predictions yet, Dre, to be honest with you. I'm definitely not ready for draft predictions yet. Simply because I like to wait until after the combine and then after some pro days and stuff also, because there's going to be a couple of guys at the top that are going to only work out on their pro day. And then there's going to be some guys that are going to, you know, maybe there's going to be some guys that are going to, you know, get their, they're going to get their, they're going to get there at the combine and show off and show out. And then they're going to raise their stock, you know, maybe a little bit here or there. There's going to be some guys who are going to perform, you know, true to form. There may be some guys who are going to not perform that well and may drop a little bit. There's some guys who are going to be question marks, whether they're a first or second rounder, second or third rounder, you know, maybe third, fourth, whatever. And they may improve their stock. They may drop their stock. Then you could also get where some teams may get an injury, or they may or may not sign or fill a position in free agency, or unexpected trades happen. I like to wait until a little bit later in the game to kind of make a real draft position on anything like that. But nah, man, with that being said, it's been real. I'm tired as fuck. So tonight was not going to be a long show anyway. That's why I did not bring on any guests or anything like that. He's probably asleep or something. I don't know. But bro, it's been a week, and I needed a Red Bull refresher when I picked my son up from work just to try to power through just this episode. So all 175 of y'all that rock with us. Appreciate y'all. Dre, appreciate you coming in the chat, my guy. I don't know if it was any other comments on Twitter or nothing like that, but appreciate y'all rocking with us. This was episode 67 of Sucio Sports, presented by Gel Blasters, Inplay Dogs. Gel Blasters, Inplay Dogs. So episode 67 of Sucio Sports. Holla at y'all. Appreciate y'all. See y'all next week.